I didn't go to my own sister's biggest day, not because I didn't care, but because she looked me straight in the eyes and said if I showed up, I would ruin everything. And the worst part? I believed her. I actually stayed home while everyone else dressed up, smiled for photos, and celebrated like I didn't exist. But what none of them knew, what she didn't know, was that by the next morning, everything they built that night would start falling apart. And suddenly, the one person they begged to come back was me. My name is Lily Carter, and before I tell you how one decision turned my entire family upside down, take a second to subscribe and drop your country in the comments. I always read them, and I want to know where you're watching from. Now, let me take you back to the moment it all started. My sister Emily had always been the center of attention, the perfect daughter, the golden girl, the one who got everything she wanted without ever having to ask twice. And I was just there. Not a failure exactly, but never quite enough in her shadow. When she announced her engagement to Daniel Brooks, everyone acted like it was some royal wedding. My parents poured money into it, relatives flew in from everywhere, and Emily made sure every single detail was flawless, except for one thing: me. At first, it was subtle. She stopped including me in planning. Then she'd forget to invite me to dress fittings or family dinners. I brushed it off, told myself she was just stressed, until 3 days before the wedding when she came to my apartment unannounced. She didn't hug me, didn't smile. She just stood there, arms crossed, like she had already decided something. "Lily," she said, her voice cold in a way I had never heard before, "I need you to do me a favor." I laughed nervously, trying to lighten the mood. "Wow, no hello? Sure, what's up?" She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Don't come to the wedding." At first, I thought she was joking. I even smiled, but she didn't. "What?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "Emily, what are you talking about?" She sighed like I was the problem. "You always make things awkward. You don't fit in with Daniel's family, and honestly, I don't want anything ruining this day." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. "I'm your sister," I said quietly. "Exactly," she replied, almost impatient. "So please, just this once, don't make it about you." That sentence stuck in my head like a knife. Don't make it about you. As if I ever had. As if I ever even had the chance. I didn't argue. I didn't cry in front of her. I just nodded. "Okay, if that's what you want." And just like that, I erased myself from the most important day of her life. The night of the wedding, I sat alone in my apartment, scrolling through pictures people were posting online. Emily in her white dress, smiling like nothing was missing, like I was nothing. But around midnight, something strange started happening. Posts stopped. Messages started popping up, missed calls. And by 6 a.m., my phone was ringing non-stop with one message repeated over and over again. "Lily, please answer. Something's gone wrong." By the time the sun came up, my phone screen looked like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. 23 missed calls, dozens of messages, all from numbers I hadn't heard from in months, even years. And right at the top was my mom's name, flashing again and again, like if she just tried hard enough, I'd suddenly forget everything Emily said and come running back like I always did. But this time, I didn't pick up right away. I just stared at it, letting it ring. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being ignored. They were. When I finally unlocked my phone, the messages started flooding in all at once. My cousin Rachel, "Lily, please call me ASAP. It's serious." My Aunt Monica, "We need to talk. Something happened last night." Even my dad, who barely ever texted, had sent a single line that made my chest tighten. "Lily, where are you? We might need your help." Need my help? The same people who didn't need me at the wedding suddenly needed me now? I almost laughed, but something about the tone, the panic, it didn't feel like drama. It felt real. I clicked on Rachel's name first and hit call, and she picked up before it even rang twice, her voice shaking so badly I barely recognized it. Lily? Oh my God, finally, where are you? I leaned back against my couch, trying to keep my voice steady. At home, where Emily told me to be. What's going on? There was a pause, like she didn't know how to say it, and then she whispered, "The wedding. It didn't end the way anyone thought." My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Another pause. Then, Daniel's family, they left. Like all of them, in the middle of the reception. I sat up straight. Left? Why would they just leave? Rachel exhaled sharply. Because of something Emily said, or maybe something she didn't realize would get out. I don't know, it all happened so fast, but there was shouting, Lily, people arguing. Daniel looked furious, and then his mother stood up and said something about lies, about money, and then they were just gone. My mind started racing, trying to piece it together. Emily had spent months making everything look perfect, too perfect. "Where's Emily now?" I asked. Rachel hesitated again. "She's not okay. She locked herself in the bridal suite after they left. She won't talk to anyone. Your mom's been crying all night." I closed my eyes for a second, letting that sink in. The perfect wedding, the perfect image, completely shattered in a matter of minutes. "So why are you all calling me?" I asked quietly, even though I think I already knew the answer. Rachel's voice dropped even lower. "Because, Lily, Daniel's family, they were expecting to meet you." I frowned. "Me? Why?" "Because Emily told them you handled something important, something financial, something about the venue and contracts. And when they realized you weren't there and that no one actually knew the details except you, things started falling apart really fast." My heart started pounding, because now it made sense. Emily hadn't just excluded me, she had used me. All those months I spent helping her quietly, fixing issues behind the scenes, talking to vendors, smoothing over problems she didn't even understand. She had taken all of that and presented it like it was her own, until the moment someone asked a question she couldn't answer. "They kept asking where you were," Rachel continued, "and when Emily tried to explain, it just made everything worse. Daniel thought she was hiding something. His family thought she was lying. And then someone brought up the payments and—" She stopped mid-sentence. "And what?" I pressed. "And some of them weren't cleared, Lily." My eyes snapped open. "That's not possible. I handled all of that." "Exactly," Rachel said softly. "You did. But since you weren't there to confirm anything, no one knew what was real anymore." And in that moment, everything clicked into place. Emily didn't just ask me to stay home because I'd ruin her day. She sent away the only person who was holding it together. And now, without me there, everything she tried so hard to control was collapsing piece by piece. By mid-morning, I finally decided to step out of my apartment and drive over to the venue. Not because I wanted to rescue Emily, but because I knew that without me, no one else could fix the mess. When I arrived, the place was chaos. Chairs scattered, leftover bouquets trampled, and the catering staff running around like they had no clue what to do next. Emily was sitting on the edge of the stage, her veil half undone, sobbing quietly, completely humiliated, while Daniel stood across the room, pacing and muttering angrily to himself, clearly trying to salvage what little pride he had left. I walked over slowly, letting everyone notice me, because I knew, once I appeared, the dynamic would shift instantly. And shift it did. Heads turned, whispers started, and people I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly looked at me with wide eyes, some even holding their phones out to record. I walked up to Emily quietly, crouched beside her, and said softly, "Hey, I'm here." She looked up, stunned, her mascara running, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to say something but couldn't. And then Daniel froze mid-step, his jaw dropping, because he recognized me immediately. Lily Carter, the one he'd heard about from vendors, the contracts I had handled, the person who actually made this wedding possible behind the scenes, the one Emily had tried to erase from the day. I smiled faintly, not smugly, just calmly, because I realized something important. I hadn't ruined anything. Emily had. By keeping me out, she had triggered a chain reaction that no one could fix alone. I gently guided Emily up, straightened her veil, and whispered, "Let's show them how it's done." And then I turned toward Daniel and his family, who were standing frozen, and explained everything with clear, confident authority. The missed payments, the miscommunication, the contracts I had signed off on, every single detail that made the wedding actually happen. And slowly, the tension in the room shifted. Eyes softened, the chaos started to resolve. People realized they had been panicking over nothing because the person they needed, the one who actually had everything under control, was finally here. Emily clung to my arm, embarrassed but relieved, and I could see the shame in her eyes as she realized how badly she had underestimated me. Daniel looked at me, finally understanding the truth, and muttered, "I didn't know. I didn't know you did all this." And in that moment, the room went silent because everyone who had doubted, whispered, or laughed earlier finally saw who had really been in control all along. And then I leaned down to Emily, quietly but firmly, and said, "Next time, don't tell me I'll ruin it, because I didn't ruin anything. I just waited until everyone realized who actually had it together." That day, my sister learned a lesson she wouldn't forget. Daniel learned who to actually respect, and the rest of the family? Well, let's just say the next family gathering, I got the first invitation, and this time, no one dared tell me to stay home. And the final punchline, whispered in that moment for anyone watching this story unfold, sometimes staying away gives you the perfect view of who really needs you.